Welcome to Brand Lover, honest, real, and lively conversations for flourishing entrepreneurs and budding business owners on a mission to cultivate a heartfelt brand that connects with their purpose-driven mission. My hope is that you walk away feeling inspired and refreshed with a weekly takeaway in your back pocket that you can apply to your life or business. In a world where the main gripe of online business owners is the battle to be noticed, it's imperative to start thinking outside the box. Building a sought-after, lovable brand is not going to happen overnight with a viral TikTok. It's most likely going to be a slow burn, and it's going to be a layering process. My goal is to give you insight into a world not really explored, let alone leveraged by ordinary business owners of today's era. So if you're ready to be way more than ordinary and you want to start delighting your audience and customers rather than badgering them with the same old online noise all your competitors are doing, go get yourself a pen and paper because you're going to love this episode. I'm talking about sensory branding. By thoughtfully engaging multiple senses, you can create a memorable and more immersive experience that resonates with your audience, leaving a more impactful, lasting impression than visuals and copy alone. Do you want to learn more? Of course you do. So first of all, what is sensory branding? It's exactly as its name suggests. Sensory branding uses different layers of sensory stimuli to establish a more emotive connection between your brand and your customers. The aim is to harness the five senses where possible, being sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Yeah, that's all of them, to evoke emotion and establish a connection that triggers a response so that your brand will be more likely to be embedded in the memory of your audience. So unlike traditional branding, which often focuses primarily on words and visual elements, sensory branding aims to build a multifaceted experience. So here's why it's useful to you in your brand building journey. By targeting a response by using these multiple senses, you're more likely to encourage brand recall, foster emotional connections, and create a more immersive and enjoyable customer experience, which only in turn is going to encourage repeat customers. So have you ever heard of the term surprise and delight? Sensory branding is really powerful if you are wanting an edge over your competitors without falling into the trap of thinking that you have to be doing, all the same marketing things as everyone else to be successful, because you don't, particularly in an online setting where physical interaction is admittedly limited. Leveraging sensory cues in a creative way can help to bridge the gap and make your brand feel more tangible and more relatable. So let's think about this from a consumer perspective. Say you're at a shopping center, your eyes kind of land on a beautifully designed window display and something catches your gaze. So you walk into the shop and some beautiful music is playing that complements this window display. Like it feels like it's aligned, like it matches the vibe. And then all of a sudden you're immersed into, like a cloud or a mist or whatever of a unique scent that, potentially smells like apple pie and cinnamon. So it takes you back to Sunday lunches at your grandma's house, just as an example. All of these layers of sensory stimuli are working together to create an experience or to replicate a past experience by triggering an emotional response by targeting your memories and past experiences that are going to then be associated with your brand, which are more likely to then be embedded in their memory. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope you're able to digest that. So let's explore some other examples of brands successfully using sensory branding. And once I point them out, they're going to be really obvious. If you know me at all, you know that I adore the Apple brand. So of course I'm going to talk about them, because Apple is a master of sensory branding on many different levels. But, you know, from the sleek design, like the beautiful, getting excited just thinking about it, design of their products and their packaging, to their intuitive and aesthetically pleasing interfaces. Apple ensures that every visual detail reflects their brand and influences how their audience feels about it. So from a sensory perspective, obviously there is the one that I adore the most, which is peeling off that layer of plastic from this new screen. Oh my gosh. But you know, thinking also about that, the Apple chime, the startup chime of an Apple device, that's a powerful auditory cue. It reinforces brand recognition. You could, you know, if you're sitting in a cafe and you hear that chime, you know exactly what type of computer that person has. And it evokes a sense of reliability and innovation because of what's associated with it. So that's just one example. Now, I'm going to introduce you to something called ASMR, and I've only just recently discovered that this is a thing. It has a name. Basically, it's creating an almost addictive unboxing experience. So it stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, and it can work particularly well for online brands who are wanting to stand out by simulating that in-store experience. So ASMR, autonomous sensory meridian response, it doesn't really matter what it's called, but it has become a popular trend on platforms like YouTube and Instagram. I have certainly noticed my children becoming addicted, well, you know, at the risk of becoming addicted to unboxing videos. Have your kids ever been stuck glued to, like for a while it was LOL dolls? It's just people, especially Americans, were creating these videos where they would be unboxing all the little things and surprises that come with LOL dolls. So that would be like the rattle of the packet and the peeling away or the unclicking of the box. And all of these things come together to really to simulate that sensory experience. So just for example, for your own kind of research, I guess, if you go and have a look at Lush, which is that it's a really fun, colorful, like really quite heavily scented cosmetics company. They've got like, you know, things like bath bombs that fizz up and shampoo bars and all that sort of stuff. So they've done this really, really well. So go and have a little stalk of them. And you'll notice it once you start watching and you're aware of this. They use things like crisp sounds of the packaging that I mentioned before. They use like really gentle, lovely, silky pouring of bath oils that simulates that anticipation of getting into a lovely warm bath. And also using voice references, so really soft spoken descriptions, to create that really rich experience that not only sort of showcases their products in a really lovely way, but also engages customers on a deeper level because it draws them in and it almost like puts them in that situation. So this helps to build anticipation and excitement around their products, and they're wanting, like, people then are triggered to want to go and use that for themselves. So now, you know, the battle, I guess, is creating or simulating that sort of in-store experience online. And another brand that does this really well is Starbucks, because what they do, it's just a lovely example of the consistency of extending their physical store, I don't know what that was, through to their online presence. So their website and their social media and all that sort of stuff are designed with that cozy color palette and rich visuals that evoke that familiar atmosphere of their cafe. And the often overlooked sense of sound is also something that they've thought about, because users can listen on the app to curated playlists that mirror the music played in store. So this multi-sensory approach makes customers feel connected to the brand. Whether they're ordering online, you can do that now apparently, or visiting the cafe. Because it's seamless and it's familiar, it's trust-evoking and reliable on many levels. So if you are a brand that has a physical storescape, how can you, use sensory branding to enrich the experience in store, but then thinking about how you can simulate that in your online marketing. So as I said before, you might also, if you're an online only brand, you might be thinking, well, that's great. And it's great for global brands who've got lots of cash and, the resources to do all these things. But what about little guys? Okay, like what if we are predominantly marketing online? How can we use these principles to stand out ourselves? Implementing sensory branding as a solo business owner can seem really daunting, and I get that, but it is entirely doable. So I'm just wanting to give you a few little tips to get you on your way, and hopefully that will, trigger some creative ideas. Now this one's really, really obvious because, we're doing it anyway. Hopefully you're doing it anyway, using a consistent color palette, imagery, tone, and typography that reflects your brand's personality. This is something, that's the traditional brand, right? And of course, using a consistent look and feel for your logo, brand elements, icons, no brainer. That should be already happening. So how can we add to this? Sound. Okay, so this is something that you don't necessarily want to go overboard with. Like you don't want like 100 clicky, dongs going off on your website, or, glittery chimes or whatever. I think that was something from the 90s when people went a little bit crazier. Do you remember websites that used to have like a background music playing, and it was the most annoying thing because you could not figure out where the button was to turn it off? I don't recommend doing that. You don't want to put people off. But incorporating background or intro music that aligns with your brand vibe into things like your Instagram videos or podcast can be very effective, especially if it becomes familiar to people. You can use subtle sound effects in things like YouTube and that sort of thing to enhance the user experience. Don't go overboard. But also voice branding is a thing. So if you do voiceovers, or, if you are doing podcasts, ensure your voice reflects your brand tone, whether it's calm, energetic, or I don't know, depending on what it is, however you need to come across to make people feel. All right, so another one is to give a thought to the entire user experience online. So, through your social media and your website, if you have an app, obviously, all those things. So using interactive elements on your website like hover effects and animated buttons, maybe that, that stand out because they are moving a little bit. And considered navigation. So focus on creating a smooth and enjoyable experience that leads the user on a journey. In social media, you can encourage engagement with things like quizzes and polls or sliders to get those conversations started. Sort of stay curious, open to building connections with your audience. We often talk about that sort of, engagement, social media engagement, as a way to build the know, like, and trust factor, so that, people start to trust you as a person, a brand. But connecting with a real human, particularly the face behind their brand, will almost instantly make your brand more memorable. All right. Those are the really obvious ones for online, right? So how can we incorporate the sense of taste and smell into our online marketing? And this is where you probably need to get a little bit creative and think outside the box. First of all, if you do own a product-based business, these types of things are fairly easy to implement. Like it could be as simple as dropping a little essential oil drop into the corner of your packaging. or including a fancy little treat with their delivery, not just like a plain lolly, but just something, something fancy and bespoke, even like a handmade chocolate or something. Go that extra, do the extra. If you are a service-based business, gifting is a beautiful way to bring tangibility to your brand. So think about how you could potentially incorporate the sense of taste and smell in that kind of way. But in our online marketing, for people who may not yet be customers or have purchased yet, here's a few tips. So you can use really rich, evocative language to describe your products and services. So make your audience feel like they can taste and smell your offerings through your words. Set the tone and paint a picture for them. Use high quality images that really capture the essence of taste and smell, particularly if you are in the food industry, obviously, or textural things. So think of close-up shots and pictures of things that really evoke emotion, that really trigger that emotional response, or put them inside some kind of scenario that that really connects with people and their memories, because memories are such powerful things that they can actually also trigger a physical response in us. Another idea might be to offer a free or low-cost sample of your products for people to feel or to touch and taste themselves before committing to a purchase. You can use sounds to communicate the personality of your brand. So consider using a certain genre of music for your Instagram reels or background music on stories and that sort of thing. Just to set the tone, like don't just always be going for the latest trending audio. Really think about how you can stay true to your brand and what type of music evokes the types of feeling that you want to be associated with your brand. And something that is quite popular that you could try somehow is a virtual tasting or try on or Q&A kind of session. So depending on what you're offering, obviously the world is your oyster. But what about hosting virtual events for showcasing different products or themes, or basically just offering a more tangible experience, like by showing the feel of the fabrics, or and describing how it's feeling to touch, and really describing smells and tastes and that sort of thing, really enhancing the experience for customers and potential customers. So hopefully that gives you a few little tips to think about what you can do to go the extra and to utilize a vastly unknown, strategy. So truly, honestly, incorporating sensory branding into your online strategy can significantly enhance the customer experience and set your brand apart from competitors, which is what it's what we need to do. So it's going to make it more noticeable, more memorable, and more loved, more lovable. By engaging multiple senses, you have the power to create a more immersive and memorable experience that resonates with your audience by triggering those emotional responses. So start by evaluating your current branding elements and think creatively about how you can incorporate sensory stimuli to enrich your brand's online presence. Your customers will not only remember your brand, but also feel a stronger emotional connection to it. I would love to know if this episode helped to expand your creative thoughts on how you can get noticed online by layering in sensory stimuli to your marketing strategy. So if you want to brainstorm, or if you have an idea, or if you tried something, please get in touch with me on Instagram at RachelWriter_brand mentor, and I hope to chat with you soon. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, I invite you to share the link with another woman in business or someone who needs to hear this message. Every woman we can support to grow a meaningful, profitable brand is another woman who is free to live a purposeful life for herself and be more present for her family. None of us are alone in the challenges we face in business, but the solution can start with a gift from someone else, and it could be a podcast episode just like this one. Thank you for listening.